The first sound I remember wasn't the baby's cry. It was the monitor. Beep, beep, beep. Each pulse cutting into me like a reminder. This child might not be mine. The air stank of antiseptic, sharp and metallic, mixed with baby powder that pretended to soften the truth. My wife, Vanessa, lay glowing and broken on the bed, sweat streaking her face, clutching a tiny bundle as if the universe had just placed its crown in her arms. "Isn't she beautiful?" she whispered. Her smile trembled with exhaustion, but her eyes, God, her eyes, burned with triumph. Behind her stood the grandmothers. My mother Margaret, tall, rigid, judgment carved into every wrinkle, and Eleanor, Vanessa's mother, softer in tone but sharp enough to cut glass with her stare. Both women beamed at the child. Everyone glowed. Everyone except me. I hadn't moved closer. My hands dug deep into my pockets, jaw locked so tight it ached. I didn't even fake a smile. I felt Margaret's gaze drilling into me, her silent verdict. She knows. She always knows. The door creaked. A nurse slipped in, clipboard clutched like a shield. "Mr. Walker," she said, her smile professional, her tone rehearsed. "We'll need you to fill out the birth certificate." That was the moment. The air thickened. My throat burned. Every eye turned to me. And I said it. Slowly. Clearly. No hesitation. "We'll fill it out after the DNA test proves I'm the father." The room cracked open. Vanessa's head snapped up, too fast, too sharp. The baby whimpered at the movement. Her wide eyes locked onto mine, confusion and horror colliding in their depths. What did you just say?" Eleanor gasped, clutching her chest. Margaret stiffened beside her, lips parted as though to unleash her fury, but she didn't. Not yet. I didn't flinch. My voice cut sharper, colder. "I'm not accusing you, Vanessa." I let the silence hang, heavy, suffocating. "I'm sure you cheated." The baby whimpered again, as if echoing the truth no one wanted to hear. Vanessa's lips trembled. Eleanor stepped forward, her tone low, urgent, begging. "Ethan, not here. Not now. Please. Your wife just gave birth. This isn't the time." But my silence was louder than her plea. Finally, Margaret snapped. Her voice cracked through the air like a whip. "You should be ashamed. Accusing your wife, in this moment? She gave you a child." "A child?" I cut her off, my words like a blade. "That may not be mine." The monitors didn't beep. They screamed. Or maybe that was just my pulse hammering in my skull. Vanessa's tears slid soundless down her cheeks. Her arms curled tighter around the baby, as if she could shield it from me, from truth, from everything. And then, her voice cracked, glass shattering in her throat. "How dare you? After everything. After this, you stand here and—" I raised a hand. Calm. Surgical. A gesture sharp enough to slice her words. "Vanessa," I said, my tone almost gentle, almost. "Should I call Derek Hayes?" The name hit like a gunshot. She jerked as if struck. "What?" Her voice broke, horror ripping through her. "No, I don't. I don't know what you're talking about." But I did. I always did. From my pocket, I drew the folded paper. Weeks of carrying it like a weapon had worn the creases thin. I opened it, smoothed it flat, and read aloud. Each word precise, deliberate, venomous. "My husband should never know about you and me." Vanessa froze. The blood drained from her face. The silence was suffocating. Only the faint beep, beep, beep broke it. Her voice cracked into broken sobs. How did you get this?" I let the paper dangle from my hand. "He gave it to me," I said simply. "Derek sent me the screenshot." Her sobs erupted, raw, unrestrained. Eleanor rushed to her side. Margaret's face turned pale, fear replacing her fury. And me? I didn't move. I didn't break. Because this was only the beginning. The knock was too soft for the storm it carried. "Ethan? Got a second?" It was Mark, IT guy, background noise of the office. The kind of man you forget as soon as he leaves the room. But that day, he wasn't forgettable. He was holding something between his fingers like it burned. A USB drive. He stepped inside, eyes shifting, voice lower than usual. "I found something. You need to see it." My stomach dropped before I even touched it. Call it instinct. Call it the part of me that already knew the truth was coming. I took it, plugged it in. The screen blinked. A folder appeared. Screenshots. The first one opened like a trapdoor. Her name, Vanessa. Next to it, Derek Hayes. Last night was incredible. My husband must never know. I can't leave him. Not while I'm pregnant. But I don't want to lose you. The words stabbed deeper than any knife. I leaned forward, my breath stuck in my throat. My hands clenched the desk, knuckles white. The room around me blurred, computer hum, fluorescent buzz, all swallowed by those lines of text. Mark hovered like a man standing on the edge of a grave he dug himself. I wasn't looking, Ethan. He gave me the laptop, kept saying it was crashing. Routine fix. But I saw the folder. I almost closed it. Almost. But I couldn't. You needed to know. I didn't answer. I clicked another. Another screenshot. Another confession. Cheap hotel plans. Whispers written in pixels, bleeding onto my screen. Each one stripped away what little shield I had left. Mark's voice cracked the silence. Do you want me to delete them? I turned to him, slowly, my voice low, too calm. No. Keep everything. Every file. Every word. He swallowed, nodded, and left. The door shut. The silence thickened. I sat back, staring at the ceiling. Rage coiled inside me, not wild but precise. Vanessa, glowing at night beside me, pretending innocence. Derek, shaking my hand each morning like betrayal wasn't dripping from his skin. I wanted to smash the monitor, to rip the cords from the wall. But I didn't, because destruction would have been too merciful. That night, I lay in bed beside her. The glow of her phone lit her face. Fingers typing, a faint smile curving her lips. When she caught me watching, she slipped the phone under her pillow, kissed my cheek, whispered, "Good night, honey. Good night." 2 words, sweet as poison. I stared at the ceiling, fists hidden beneath the sheets, and made a vow. I wouldn't confront her. Not yet. Not while she was pregnant. Not while the child, his or mine, was still inside her. No, I would wait. I would smile when she needed me to. Pretend when the world demanded it. And then, when the time was right, I would burn everything to ash. The hospital room was too small for the truth it was forced to hold. Sterile walls. Cold air. Machines keeping time with a steady, cruel rhythm. And in the middle, Vanessa, clutching the newborn like the child could shield her from me, from judgment, from the storm. Her eyes were wide, red, desperate. They darted between me, her mother, and mine, searching for someone to rescue her. Ethan, Eleanor pleaded, her hand raised as though calming a dangerous animal. Please, not here, not now. But I didn't move, didn't blink. My gaze locked on Vanessa like a spotlight exposing every hidden scar. This is exactly the time, I said, voice low, deliberate. Margaret finally snapped. My mother's voice cracked like a whip. I did not raise you to humiliate your wife like this. She just gave you. She gave me a lie. I cut in. My words didn't shout. They sliced. She's a liar. The baby whimpered at the sound. Vanessa's breath hitched, a sob breaking free. How can you say that? After this, after her. She gestured weakly at the child in her arms. I lifted my hand slowly. The movement was quiet, deliberate, lethal. Vanessa, should I call Derek Hayes right now? The name hit harder than a slap. She jerked as if I'd struck her, clutching the infant tighter. What are you talking about? Her voice cracked like glass. You heard me. Her lips shook, words failing. No, Ethan, I swear. From my pocket, I drew the folded paper. Weeks of carrying it had worn it thin, like a blade polished for the kill. I smoothed it flat on the table and read aloud, my tone precise, merciless. My husband should never know about you and me. I don't want anything to do with you. Eleanor gasped. Margaret paled. Vanessa's sobs erupted, raw and ragged, spilling into the sterile air. How did you get this? I let the paper dangle between my fingers. Derek sent it to me. The silence was heavier than the walls could bear. Only the monitors filled the void, steady and unbothered. Vanessa shook her head violently, hair sticking to her damp face. No, he wouldn't. Then deny it. I stepped closer, my shadow cutting across her. Look me in the eye and tell me you didn't betray me. Her mouth opened, but no words came. Just silence. Eleanor rushed to her side, trembling. Please, Ethan. Stop this. She's just given birth. You'll push her into depression, into something worse. Margaret tried again, her tone softer this time, almost pleading. Think of the child. Even if you're right, the baby is innocent. I exhaled, slow and heavy, letting months of rage push against my chest. Then I spoke, each word sharpened to cut. I've known for 4 months. Vanessa froze. Her sobbing turned into a ragged gasp. You knew? Yes. My eyes never left hers. And I waited. I waited until the child was born, so I could prove what you've done. Her body crumpled, shaking as tears streamed freely. No, please, Ethan, I swear. But I didn't let her rebuild. I leaned closer, voice dropping into a whisper sharp enough to pierce bone. If this child is mine, I'll raise him. If not, I'll walk away. From both of you. The weight of my words pressed into every corner of the room. Eleanor began to cry. Margaret covered her face with trembling hands. Vanessa broke completely, sobbing into the blanket wrapped around the baby, clutching it like a lifeline already slipping from her hands. And me? I stood still, unshaken, because the truth was simple. I had buried this marriage months ago. The courtroom reeked of old wood and older secrets. Benches groaned as bodies shifted, whispers sliding like snakes through the air. But all those whispers led back to us, the broken couple at the center of it all. Vanessa sat across from me at the plaintiff's table, her eyes rimmed red but painted with innocence. A modest dress, hair pulled neatly back. She wanted the room to see a fragile mother, not a betrayer. Her lawyer leaned close, whispered something rehearsed, and then she rose. Your Honor. Her voice trembled just enough to sound authentic. I never meant to hurt Ethan. He was gone so often, so busy. I felt abandoned, alone. And Derek, he was just there. She pressed a hand against her chest, a gesture so delicate it made a few heads nod. Sympathy spreading like infection. I sat motionless, a statue, but inside my blood boiled. Then Daniel Price, my attorney, rose. Calm, precise, the kind of man who weaponized silence before words. He straightened his tie, waited until the room leaned forward, and then spoke. With respect, Your Honor, Mrs. Walker is rewriting herself as a victim. But victims don't write messages like these. He stepped forward, laying a neat stack of papers on the judge's bench. Exhibit A, explicit messages between Vanessa Walker and Derek Hayes. Not business, not friendship, betrayal, recorded in her own words. The judge frowned, scanning. A ripple of murmurs broke through the gallery. Vanessa's lawyer tried to intervene. These don't prove physical infidelity. Daniel cut him down with a glance sharp as a blade. They prove deception, intent, and proof enough that she violated her vows while carrying a child she told my client was his. The words hit Vanessa harder than any gavel could. She shrank, but then pushed back, her voice cracking, desperate. I was lonely. Ethan never touched me, never looked at me. Daniel's smirk was small, cruel. Really? Because the evidence shows otherwise. He lifted photographs, dinners, vacations, gifts, posts of me, smiling beside her, pouring affection into a woman who was already lost. These aren't the actions of neglect. They're the actions of a husband trying, while his wife betrayed him in secret. The judge leaned forward, brows raised. Mrs. Walker, did you ever tell your husband you felt abandoned? Did you ever ask him to change? Vanessa froze. Her lips parted, but no words came. She looked at her lawyer, at the judge, at me. Nothing. Daniel stepped closer, his voice cutting through her silence like a scalpel. Answer the question. Did you ever ask him to change? The silence was deafening. Her answer, or lack of one, hung in the air, heavier than any verdict. Daniel turned to the judge, his words cold, final. Instead of honesty, she chose infidelity. Instead of communication, she chose betrayal. Loneliness does not excuse deception. Pregnancy does not excuse adultery. This isn't neglect. It is willful, deliberate betrayal. The judge leaned back, expression unreadable, weighing the evidence like stone. Vanessa's shoulders shook. Silent tears streaked her face. And me? I didn't move, didn't flinch. I sat watching, waiting. Because deep down, I knew this courtroom wasn't the end. It was only the breaking point. The envelope looked harmless. White. Thin. Forgettable. But to me, it was a loaded gun. I slid my finger under the seal, slow, deliberate. The paper crinkled, as if even it resisted. My eyes locked on the words, and the floor tilted. Paternity probability, 0%. Not blurred. Not misread. Clear. Sharp. Final. I folded it back too carefully, as though precision could stop my chest from burning. Then I grabbed my keys. Because silence wasn't enough anymore. Both families waited in Eleanor's living room. Old photographs of Vanessa smiled from the walls, a cruel reminder of innocence long gone. Vanessa sat hunched, clutching the baby like a shield. Her eyes were swollen from tears, her lips cracked from crying. Eleanor loomed beside her, protective, fierce. Across from them, Margaret sat rigid, her expression unreadable but carved from stone. I entered without greeting, without pause. The envelope in my hand was heavier than chains. I stood in the center of the room, held it out. Read it. Eleanor's fingers trembled as she took it. Her eyes scanned, and her face collapsed. A sharp gasp tore from her lungs. No, no, this can't. Margaret rose slowly, pulled the paper from Eleanor's grip. She read. Her face drained pale, her hands shaking as she handed it back. Vanessa's voice cracked, frantic. What does it say? I answered for her, my tone ice. It says I am not the father. The words didn't echo. They detonated. Vanessa's scream ripped through the silence. She rocked the baby, whispering no, 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 like repetition could rewrite reality. Eleanor wrapped her arms around her daughter, sobbing, glaring at me through tears. You're heartless. She gave you a child that isn't mine. My words cut through her. Don't twist this. Don't you dare. Margaret spoke at last, her voice softer, broken. Ethan, the baby is innocent. He didn't ask for this. I turned to her slowly, each word heavy as stone. And I didn't ask to raise another man's child. Silence swallowed the room. Even the clock on the wall seemed to stop ticking. I stepped closer to Vanessa. She stared up at me, broken, her tears staining the blanket wrapped around the infant. For a moment, pity flickered. Almost. But then I spoke, flat, final. If the baby had been mine, I would have been his father. But he isn't. And you? I paused, letting the blade sink deeper. You will never again be my wife. Her cry shattered like glass. Eleanor clung tighter to her daughter. Margaret dropped her face into her hands. I turned, walked to the door. My hand gripped the knob. For a heartbeat, I looked back. Margaret's eyes begged me for something, anything. But I had nothing left to give. The door clicked shut behind me. And with that sound, the life I once had was buried. The call came at night. Not early, not late, just late enough for dread to cling to the ring. I answered, expecting my mother's usual check-in. But her voice was different. Tight. Heavy. Ethan, it's Vanessa. And Derek. My grip tightened. What about them? A pause. Then the words dropped like a hammer. They're dead. Car accident. Instant. The room tilted sideways. My breath stuck. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard. Dead. Yes. Police said they lost control. Hit the guardrail. Went over. Fire. Nothing left to save. I sat down slowly, the phone cold against my ear. Images slammed into me. Vanessa's tear-streaked face, Derek's smug grin. Gone. Just like that. And then the thought that cut deeper than all the others. Noah, the child. He's safe, my mother answered quickly. Eleanor had him that night. He wasn't in the car. Relief. Confusion. Something darker, coiling. Mom, what aren't you telling me? The silence stretched. I could hear her breath steady, deliberate. Then she said it. Calm. Too calm. It wasn't an accident. My heart slammed. What? I made sure of it. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My own mother. The woman who scolded me for being too harsh. The woman who raised me. What do you mean? For Noah. Her voice didn't waver. To protect him. They were poison. Vanessa would have twisted him against you. Derek would have raised him in lies. I couldn't let that happen. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles ached. My pulse roared in my ears. You killed them. Silence. Then, softly, I saved him. The walls around me blurred. My chest heaved. I wanted to scream, to throw the phone, to tear the truth out of her, but all I could do was whisper. What did you do? Her answer was simple. Cold. Don't ask. Just know it's done. And now, Noah needs a father. The line went dead. I lowered the phone slowly, staring at the shadows in my apartment. My hand trembled, but my voice, when it finally came, was eerily calm. Vanessa and Derek were gone. My mother had killed them. And somewhere across town, a little boy slept in his grandmother's house, unaware that the world he was born into had just been rewritten. Sleep abandoned me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw fire, twisted metal, screams that didn't exist but echoed all the same. I hadn't been there, yet the images stalked me night after night. And always, her voice. It wasn't an accident. I made sure of it. I wanted to hate my mother, to curse her, to cut her out. But another thought clung tighter. She did it for Noah. Weeks passed before I saw him again. Eleanor invited me, not as a son-in-law, not as an enemy, but as someone she couldn't erase from Noah's life no matter how much she wanted to. The boy was small, barely 3, his laugh cutting through the silence like sunlight through clouds. He ran across the room, clutching a toy car, the crash of plastic against furniture loud and innocent. Then he spotted me. He froze, tilted his head, wide, curious eyes. "You," he said simply, pointing. "You're Grandma Margaret's son." The words hit harder than any insult ever had. My chest tightened. I crouched down, forcing a smile I didn't feel. "That's right. I'm her son." He nodded, as though that answered everything. Then, blunt as only children can be, he asked, "Are you my dad?" The room froze. Eleanor's hand gripped the chair. Margaret, standing behind me, went rigid. My throat closed. I swallowed hard, then forced the words out. "Not yet." Noah blinked, then smiled. "Okay." And just like that, he went back to playing. But I couldn't move. His question dug into me like claws. That night, the two women sat across from me at Eleanor's kitchen table. They looked older than ever. Faces hollowed not just by age, but by secrets too heavy to carry. Margaret's voice was steady, though her eyes betrayed the truth. "Ethan, we don't have much time. Doctors say it's late stage. For both of us. Cancer." Her words slammed into me harder than the crash ever had. Both of them. Dying. Eleanor leaned forward, her voice fierce despite her frailty. "That boy needs a father. We can't give him one. You're all he has left." I shook my head, pacing, rage and grief colliding in my chest. "He isn't mine. I told you years ago, I won't raise another man's child." Margaret's tone softened, cracking at the edges. "Then don't raise him as another man's child. Raise him as yours. Forget the blood. Forget the betrayal. Noah deserves better than ghosts." Her words cut deep. I thought of his small voice asking, "Are you my dad?" I thought of how easily he had accepted my "not yet." I stopped pacing. My jaw tightened. Slowly, I turned back to them. And for the first time, I let the words escape. "He's my son now." Margaret gasped, tears pooling. Eleanor closed her eyes, relief flooding her face. In the next room, Noah laughed as his toy car slammed against the wall. The sound was pure, untainted, a reminder that maybe, just maybe, there was still something worth saving. Rain hammered the windows, each drop a drumbeat to the confession I didn't know was coming. My mother poured 2 glasses of whiskey, her hands steady despite the sickness eating her away. She slid one across the table toward me. "You deserve the truth." The words landed like a stone. I frowned. Truth about what? Her lips curved. Not a smile, not exactly. Something colder. The crash. Vanessa. Derek. My chest tightened. My mind clawed for the safe explanation, the one I'd clung to. "You said it wasn't an accident. I thought you meant their choices killed them." She shook her head slowly. "No, Ethan. I meant exactly what I said. It wasn't an accident. We made sure of it." The room shrank. My breath stalled. "We." A voice cut from the doorway. "Me." Eleanor stepped forward, her face calm, her eyes merciless. I stared between them, nausea twisting in my gut. "You, both of you?" Eleanor nodded once, without shame. "We couldn't risk them raising Noah. Vanessa would have poisoned him against you. Derek was nothing but rot. If they had lived, Noah's future would have been destroyed before it began." I slammed my glass onto the table, liquid spilling across the wood. "You murdered them. My wife. Her lover." Margaret didn't flinch. "Your wife died the moment she chose him. And Derek was already a dead man the day he touched her. We only cleaned up the mess." My breath came ragged, my hands trembling. How? How did you do it? They exchanged a glance. Then Eleanor answered, her voice steady, like she was explaining a recipe. Cars are fragile things. A brake line. A wet road. By the time anyone found them, it was fire and rubble. Another tragic accident. The words slammed into me, one after another, colder than ice. My mother. My ex-mother-in-law. The women who shaped my life, who scolded, guided, comforted me. They were confessing to murder like it was just another chore. For Noah, Margaret said again, her tone hard as iron. Always for him. I wanted to scream, to run, to call the police, drag them both into the light. But then I thought of Noah, sleeping in the next room, toy cars scattered at his bedside. If I destroyed them, if I exposed the truth, he would lose everything. I sat back down slowly, pressing my palms into my face. My voice broke when I whispered, "You've turned me into part of this." Margaret reached across the table, her hand warm on mine, heavy with intent. "No, son. We turned you into what you were always meant to be." The rain pounded harder against the glass, as if the storm itself wanted to drown their secret. And me? I sat there, trapped in a silence darker than murder. The seasons shifted, but the shadows didn't. Noah became mine on paper, but more importantly, in my heart. I signed the papers, sealed the adoption, and for the first time I let myself say it without hesitation. He was my son. His laughter filled the silence that used to suffocate me. The slam of toy cars against walls. The way his small hand wrapped around mine with trust, so complete it broke me every time. Piece by piece, bitterness chipped away. But the ghosts never left. At night, when the house fell silent, her words still crawled out of the dark. We made sure of it. And sometimes, I saw Vanessa's face, not the tear-streaked wreck from the hospital, but younger, smiling, back when forever still felt possible. I shook it off, because Noah deserved better than ghosts. That's when Rachel walked in. She came through my mother, introduced as a friend before Margaret's health collapsed. A widow, her husband gone to war in Afghanistan. She carried her scars like medals, visible, but never defining her. Coffee became dinners. Dinners became weekends. And somehow, Noah clung to her like she'd always been there. Rachel never asked about Vanessa, never pushed for details. She accepted the cracks in me the way she accepted her own. And together, they fit. One evening, Noah sat between us on the couch, his head resting in Rachel's lap. His wide eyes looked up at me, innocent, unguarded. Is she my mom now? The room froze. Rachel's hand stilled in his hair. My throat tightened, but her eyes, steady, quiet, met mine. Yes, I said at last, my voice firm. She's your mom now. Noah smiled, satisfied. And just like that, drifted to sleep. 6 months later, we stood in a chapel. Small, quiet, no grandeur. Noah was the ring bearer, his little suit slightly crooked, his smile perfect. Margaret and Eleanor sat in the front row, frail but present, their faces carved with grim satisfaction. Rachel and I exchanged vows, and for a fleeting moment, I believed in second chances. But at the reception, when I looked at my mother, pale and weakened by disease, I saw something in her eyes. Something unspoken, a secret chain tight inside her. And it hit me. The past wasn't buried. It was waiting. Funerals leave a silence that doesn't fade. Margaret was gone. Eleanor followed weeks later. 2 women who shaped, scarred, and redefined my life now rested beneath the earth. The world said they were gone. But I knew better. They hadn't left me peace. They'd left me questions. I returned to my mother's house, walking halls that still smelled faintly of her lavender candles. Dust clung to everything, the kind of stillness that presses on your chest until you can't breathe. I opened drawers, boxes, trinkets I'd seen 1,000 times but never noticed. And then, I found it. A leather diary, worn edges, faded pages. Inside, tucked between notes, was a photograph. I froze, for faces stared back at me. Margaret, Eleanor. Beside them, 2 men in uniform. My father, and Vanessa's father. Not dead. Not yet. Alive. Strong. The back of the photo held a scrawl and pen. Langley, 1997. Operation Silent Dusk. My heart pounded. My father hadn't died in a random car accident. Neither had Vanessa's. They had died on a mission. And suddenly, everything twisted into place. Margaret and Eleanor's bond. Their unshakable resolve. Their ability to orchestrate life and death without blinking. They weren't just mothers. They were operatives. Soldiers who lived in shadows and bled in silence. And me? My marriage to Vanessa, it wasn't just love at first sight. It was engineered. Two families bound by secrets, by loyalty, by blood spilled long before I ever understood. But betrayal shattered the plan. Vanessa's choice broke a legacy older than me. I sank into the chair, the photo trembling in my hand. The betrayal I thought was personal wasn't. It was generational. A fracture in a design decades in the making. From the next room came Noah's laughter, Rachel reading softly, his voice bubbling with joy. That sound, so pure, collided with the truth in my hand. I stared at the photo one last time. 4 faces. 2 couples. 1 operation. Silent Dusk. The mission hadn't ended. It had only shifted. And now, whether I wanted it or not, it was mine to carry.